means that Spain have won the group, as you can see, and they've won it on goals scored ahead of Portugal. Morocco putting up a very spirited performance against Spain. Iran, well, 1-1 against Portugal. We're going to pick apart that performance and all the issues that have come from it. But it means now that Spain will play Russia and Portugal will play Uruguay. Didi Hamann, you went for the draw beforehand, but it was a most remarkable game. And those three letters come up again, VAR.
Yeah. Well, I said a long time ago that potentially it could destroy our beautiful sport. And you know, I think there'll be huge problems. I expect it before the start of a tournament. I think at times it's farcical. People don't know, it takes the emotion out of the game, and it's not good. But what's bad about VAR, I've been given by Iran today because I love them. They gave me as much joy in this tournament than I think any team has given me in the last 2 or 3 tournaments. The way the commitment, the passion, their attitude, going 1-0 down, and keep asking questions to a team that's superior to them. There was a penalty shot before, then they do get a penalty, and then in injury time they've got the chance to make it 2-1, and which would have won them the group. And I've got to say, this team is exceptional. They're limited in terms of technical ability, but they make more than up in terms of commitment and passion and the way they put their bodies about. I've been absolutely amazed by them, and the job Heroes has done with that group of players, special. They should get a hero's welcome when they get back to Tehran tomorrow.
Yeah, because they're out of the competition. Liam, I just want to bring you in here because, you know, we have discussed VAR at length since this tournament started, and, you know, we talked about fair play, about getting the decisions right in the big games. Did Iran suffer several injustices during that match?
2. I would have said.
Okay.
2. I thought they were lucky to get the penalty, to be honest, Dara.
Okay.
You know, if I had a review, that was said it's totally accidental. It was a yard away, so we'll see it again after the break.
But
they could have had another one.
I would have given the first one,
the Carvalho one,
one, and I would have given Ronaldo a yellow card. I thought it was, or a red card. I thought it was violent conduct, and I still am adamant that these referees are being told what to give. Okay. From up above. I know you're going to say, well, that's not the case, but I'm adamant that Ronaldo was told, no, give him a yellow, just give him a yellow. He was told, he didn't go to VAR for the Carvalho one, did they?
No.
No, it didn't go. And I think because Iran had suffered a couple of injustices, they said, give the penalty, which
that'd make a farce of the whole thing, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the trouble with this, Dara. It's the trouble with it. And then you get the players are asking for it all the time. Queiroz was very nearly sent to the stand for asking for it. It's now entered into our game, that something that was never there before. And it's such an important aspect that the game is going to be overtaken by this.
And the reason it was brought in was to get the right result and the fair result.
Yeah.
That is the biggest myth we've ever had in football, because we don't. Because it only takes one decision in a game. You get wrong and you don't get the right result or a fair result. So all that nonsense that instead of 95 or 96% right decisions, we get 98.5. It doesn't matter. If you don't get the right ones or the important ones right, then you know, that's a myth, and this is why it's been farcical, and I don't think it'll get any better.
Well, we're going to look in great detail at all the incidents from the second half of that match, and there were loads. It's going to take us quite a while to pick them apart and discuss the pros and cons of VAR, but the verdict of our panel, well, 2/3 anyway, we'll get to Keith as well, is that VAR, well, farcical is the word being used, and it just a night that will be spoken about for a long time, depending on whether this system continues. Well, it's here for the rest of this tournament, but will we see it again after this? We're going to look back at the Spain-Morocco game. We've highlights of that, but so much to discuss as Spain and Portugal make it through to the last 16. It is a huge talking point, Keith, and, you know, when you reflect and when we look at what we're going to look at now with penalties and red card decisions, penalties not given, why wasn't the VAR consulted on, say, the first Iranian penalty shout, all of those things, you can get into all those, but have they just undermined, these officials who were there tonight, have they just undermined the whole project in one evening?
I think it's hard to put your finger on exactly what happened. He was clearly advised on certain ones to look at incidents. I think this tournament was too soon for VAR in a nutshell, because it's been hit and miss. We've seen it in England in the FA Cup. Diddy's talked about it in the Bundesliga this season, the problems they've had with it. You cannot bring something into the biggest football competition in the world at the stage it's at, because it's nowhere near the finished article. And that second half was like, it became a circus. It really did. Players, management, as Liam said, asking for it, begging for it, desperation. And because players and staff know it's available and what's at stake, they're going to push the boundaries. It's far from ideal. And that's probably the worst 45 minutes we've witnessed of it in the tournament.
Let's have a look at the Iranian penalty, lads, that was given using VAR. Now, I think you mentioned, Liam, you didn't think it was a penalty at all.
I think
Cedric of Portugal.
I don't think this would have been given in England.
Okay.
It's accidental. Cedric doesn't even... His back is you make a deliberate handball when you're facing the play. His back is to the play. He doesn't know what's going on. And the referee didn't give it, but I reckon because the Iranians suffered at the hands of VAR a couple of times before that the referee decided to give it, and he smashed it in, didn't he? And what a chance Mehdi had just after that, in a couple of minutes later, to put Iran through and actually top the group.
But coming back to that incident, it must have taken 3 or 4 minutes from the actual incident before you went to the touchline and have a look. Because the rule is, once the game is restarted, Pepe kicked the ball out of play. Once the game is restarted, it's gone. So it looked to me that the Iranians just stopped playing till he had a look, or communicated with the guys in Moscow, wherever they sit, till he has a look. And it's just a situation which is just unacceptable, because there's people watching at home, nobody knows what's going on. And it's a technicality that when the game would have been restarted, so they just decided not to restart the game, and eventually did have a look, and they were awarded a penalty. And I just feel that the discrepancy between what we've lost in emotion and in the heat of the moment, decisions, emotions, celebrations, sadness, if you compare that to what we got, did it make it any fairer? Did it make it our product any better? I don't think it did, but it took so much away. And I think in return we got very little, if nothing. And this is why I've always been against it. And
I think Michel Platini was dead against it when he was president of UEFA. Because I think his point was, it's going to take too long, as Didi said, it did tonight. But also, sometimes the film, you can't tell by the film whether it's a penalty or whether it's not, or whether it's offside or whether it's not. And that's the problem. For me, that wasn't a penalty.
But you see,
Cedric wasn't looking at the ball. No. He was a yard away. He's turned his back, and the ball has brushed his arm.
But without VAR, we would have been sitting here this evening, if the penalty had been given in the normal way, referee sees it, I've given the penalty, and then the kind of thing, oh, well, you've seen them given, and you have seen them given. But I suppose for people who support VAR, who are into the technology, I know Platini has never been into it, but the feeling was, well, look, let's get these things right. And the issue tonight is that they have the technology, they've looked at the pictures, sure, the emotion is gone. This was there to get decisions right, and they appear to be still getting them wrong.
Dara, there's so many grey areas. The Cedric penalty, or the penalty that was given, which hit Cedric's hand, Liam said straight away, I wouldn't have given it. I'd sway towards giving it. Now, it's 3 people here, or 4. Yeah. 2 may say it's a penalty, 2 it's not. So you can have 100 people looking at it, and you get 50 different opinions or 100 different opinions. So there's just incidents which are in the grey area. There's very hardly there's black or white. And this is a problem. They say in rugby union it works. If you want to see whether a ball is grounded or not, it's completely different to
You're dealing with a fact and a clear picture.
Exactly. Yeah. And in American football, you've got every play is a set piece. Football is a fluent game, and that's part of the reason why all over the world it's been watched. And if you have too many interruptions, people won't take it, won't stand for it. And there's just too many grey areas. And I said all along, when you bring it in foul play, if you use it for offside, no problem, because you can, with a calibrated line, you can say whether he was offside or not. When you bring it in with foul play, I think you open a can of worms. And, there's just some decisions whether there is no right or wrong. And I can accept when the ref makes a call on the pitch, and afterwards I can say, well, I probably wouldn't have given it. But if I've got people sitting there, and today you can't blame anybody because you can give it, you can't give it. You know,
I felt sorry for the referee tonight. I really did.
But there were incidents where they didn't go in. You know, the penalty appeal for Serbia, which is a blatant penalty against Switzerland, and nobody says a word. So I can accept the referee.
Can we see the Ronaldo elbow? Can we see
we will. I just want to show you, just to kind of complete. We'll come back to VAR in a minute. I want to just have a look, guys, at this chance that Iran had to win. Mehdi's chance, which you did reference earlier on. Like, this was so late in the game. They got back to 1-1, and this was top in the group.
What a glorious opportunity. Only moments after, the way it finds its way to him, he had national hero status just waiting for him there. You're not going to get a better opportunity to top the group.
We saw scenes at the end of the match, and I think his teammates were all around him because he knew then that if he knocks that ball, and he should have got it across the goalkeeper, if he knocks it in the net. Not only did they qualify, but they qualified top of the group.
Yeah, I know. Let's have a look. Let's get to this Ronaldo incident now, which is another massive talking point. We saw the Iranian player on the ground. VAR is consulted.
I think the Iranian impedes Ronaldo from running after the ball. He just gets his body in his way. And Ronaldo reacts with an elbow. Definite with an elbow. Quick, bang, across his chin. That's a sending off. Absolutely.
As soon as he stops that to look at it on the VAR, we spoke about it in depth off camera. For me, it's very simple. When he comes back on, there's no card or there's a red card. The yellow card is a cop-out. An absolute cop-out, and the fact that it's Ronaldo comes into play because he's the superstar. No doubt about it, in my opinion. Because it comes into play.
You guys were looking here and talking about if that had been a red card, and it did take a long time for them to get to the yellow card decision. Ronaldo is suspended, perhaps not just for one game, but several games.
Could be for 3 for violent conduct.
If that is it.
But he either sees it as he's trying to get through to get towards the ball, and if that's the case, it's nothing, or it's an elbow.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between, but he's found it in between.
I'd like to know what the referee's giving them a yellow card for.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because it's either an elbow in the face or not.
So are we saying that the World Cup needs Ronaldo more than Ronaldo needs the World Cup, and he does need the World Cup?
Well, FIFA, let's not forget this, Darren. You know, it's been a corrupt organisation for a very, very long time, especially when Blatter was in charge. And if they want Ronaldo to go further on the tournament, they cannot give him a red card there. And they want the top players in the tournament. They want the top teams in the tournament. Like, I suffered with Ireland all down through the year trying to qualify. They want the top teams in the tournament.
But, Liam, they are trying to change things with Infantino there. You know, like, it's a very serious allegation to say, well, you know, we still want Ronaldo there no matter what he's done. Like,
well, we can't prove it.
That's an allegation. It's an opinion. You're entitled to that.
It's my responsibility to flip around the other way and say that. The boys upstairs and all that, they all know the importance of Ronaldo to this tournament. And as Keith said, a great description. It was a cop-out.
But the final point with it is that the referee is offered the replay. He can be given the advice, have a look at this. But it's his decision. He makes the decision. I, as the referee, He's decided to give him a yellow card, and we can't say that there's been any advice offered to him. Yeah, but we don't know that.
We don't know that.
In my opinion.
It's your opinion.
But he gives it a different dimension.
FIFA can sue me. They don't need to sue RTE, Darren.
I've got a nice suit. Go on.
As Keith said, they weren't prepared. This guy, and I felt sorry for him as well, because he wouldn't have been in contact with VAR ever before. Obviously, they have training camps, but he wouldn't have refereed a game with VAR. And I think it gives it, when you've got decisions like the Ronaldo one, it gives it a different dimension. Because why was it brought in so quickly and so sharply?
Because the FIFA president said after he was elected in March 16, I'm bringing this in for the World Cup.
Yeah, and why did he say that? Because it gives you another tool of control to say, because if a referee sends him off, he's off, and he gets banned for 2 or 3 games. Now, if you've got VAR, they can always say, go back and have a look. And there's no accusation, but maybe this is another thing to look at. Why did we need to bring it in at this moment now, where we had it in Germany, where there's been uproar and controversy for the whole season? England, it was shambolic what happened in the cup competitions. I just don't get it. This is the biggest spectacle in world not only in football, in sport. And to bring it in at this stage, I just think is irresponsible.
Well, those letters, VAR, will probably appear in the English dictionary very, very shortly and much quicker than we thought. But it has been a massive talking point this evening. And that was giving them an unlikely victory. If they got another goal and the other match, well, finished a draw, Spain would have been in serious trouble. This is the equalising goal. Aspas, VAR was used here, gentlemen. There's an issue, actually, as to whether or not the ball had gone out over the line for the corner that led to the goal. But here we go again, Didi. VAR.
Yeah, well, it should have only been asked the question where there's a clear and obvious error. So for a corner, it shouldn't even come into play. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether they had a look at it after the goal was scored. You know, this is something where it's been given offside, he's onside. If you want to use it for offside, I've not got a problem because, you know, I'm not sure whether we see the line again. The referee or the linesman made the wrong decision. It was reversed. The issue, obviously, with this is it can happen when the keeper would have had a chance to save the ball and maybe doesn't goes half-hearted, it goes in and then it's given offside. It wasn't offside. So this is another dimension it can or will get. So, but yeah, if you want to use it offside, I've not got a problem with that.
Keith, when we reflect on everything this evening, one of the things that jumps out, Ronaldo aside, the European champions, they really don't look great. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I think it's spot on. I think we've spoke so much about VAR and it might take the spotlight off them slightly, but they were toothless. They didn't play with any urgency. They were lacklustre at times. The players that came into the side, João Mario, Quaresma, nowhere near it. I'd mentioned at the top of the show, I thought they had more going forward. They had a little bit more energy. Didi's mate, Carvalho, was poor tonight in possession. They were just so lacklustre. And considering the way they got back into that game against Spain, you thought that would have just really got it going. Crept over the line against Morocco 1-0. Far from convincing. And you'd have to put the Spanish into that category, even though we haven't seen them play tonight live.
And now they're playing Uruguay in the last 16. It's Spain, Russia.